Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about top podcasts that you should be listening to for 2021. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lena Saleh, the EdTech Guru, where we are disrupting EdTech and education. All right, let's do this. 2020 and the world that we live in has a wealth of resources and technology at our fingertips. We can listen, watch anything on demand in a matter of minutes. It's hard to disseminate those resources. So I've compiled my top podcasts that you should be listening to right now. The first podcast that I recommend listening to is The Cult of Pedagogy. The Cult of Pedagogy is available through anywhere that you receive your podcasts. Basically, Jennifer Gonzalez talks through just different teaching strategies. There is things about educational technology, education reform, anything that has to do with education. She will bring on different guest speakers. She talks about breakout rooms, just different tools. Sometimes we don't get what we need from our regular professional development. So I find the Cult of Pedagogy is really great for different resources about, tools for discussion and tools for a master teacher, green screens, just different possibilities as well. So far, she has about 160 episodes that she has done, and she also has a really great website to accompany that. The next podcast that I recommend checking out is Trending in Education. Trending in Education is exactly what it seems, topics and trends of education. So it's an intersection between emerging just trends, and it is a weekly discussion that they have. And so far, they've put out some really amazing content about philosophy, the state of K-12 education. They've talked with many guest speakers like Chalkbeat. They put out content surrounding education, written content. Nicole Merrill about just career shifts, things about self-doubt, overcoming fear. So every week they have a different guest speaker in which they talk about the trends of education, just not really beating around the bush and just really jumping on those topics. The next one is the Edtech Startup Show. The Edtech Startup Show is from Gerard Dawson. He brings in interviews from EdTech startups, exactly that. So he has conversations with them, anyone from Kaplan to Lambda School to Classcraft to TextFX, just different startups and their learnings and things that they have basically found through becoming a startup. So I highly recommend that if you are an EdTech company. He puts out a lot of great content talking with the heads of these companies, which is really cool. Also, he's a former educator, so definitely can connect with him on that level. The next podcast that I recommend is Educators to Educators. I found that this podcast was one that I've been listening to for quite some time. This is by Carrie Conover, and Carrie Conover even has courses and things that she puts out for teachers to really give them the tools of things they need, like classroom management and different teaching tools, and just being able to create and innovate an engaging environment for you. There's different things like distance learning, new teacher jumpstart. I really love this. Every year she puts out a new teacher jumpstart, and it's different things that new teachers need to know, like grading and assessment, curriculum and planning, IEP. So really just the in and outs of things that we don't necessarily get every day. And sometimes we don't feel trusted enough to ask somebody. So she puts out some great content. There's also some things about how to handle criticism and how to support your students with different disorders, and just a lot of topics and conversations that we deal with on a day-to-day basis might not have the right people to connect with. And the last podcast that I recommend listening to is On Education. On Education talks about anything across education in general: technology, grading policy, planning, Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education, conferences, just everything that has to do with education. So Mike and Glenn put out this podcast, and they bring in a guest and they talk about different things like, how things aren't sustainable, esports and how the esports is playing out across education right now. Just different ways and different things that are going to be really important to talk about. Things like, patriotic education, pandemic learning, how to not be a jerk over Twitter, creativity, just lots of wealth of information. And these are the podcasts that I recommend. Again, that's Cult of Pedagogy, Trending in Education, the EdTech Startup Show, Educator to Educator, and On Education. All of these podcasts you can find across any place that you receive your podcast, Stitchers, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. If there are podcasts that you recommend that you think I should share out, please comment below or send me a message on any of my social medias. And as always, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment below. And until next time, bye.